Hello, class of 2021. This is Mrs. Oves, and I'm going to attempt to deliver the post-secondary planning meeting virtually. So we'll see how this goes. Please bear with me. Um, I hope all of you are happy and healthy and staying, um, focused as you can in these challenging times. Just really quickly, I like to touch base with all the different post-secondary options. The majority of this presentation will be focused on four-year college applications and that planning process, but I will touch on some of the other ones as well. Um, Obviously, students can go into full-time employment, career, technical school, military, or a 2 or a 4-year college. So common myths about college is that test scores are everything. That really isn't the case. Test scores certainly are important, but they are not the main driving factor. Your transcript is, and the transcript is inclusive of all the courses that you've taken throughout high school and the grades that you earned in those courses. So that's just something to keep in mind. There is not just one college for you. There's over 4,000 colleges in the country, so that certainly is not the case. So don't get tunnel vision and keep an open mind throughout this process. You don't need to know exactly what you want to be when you grow up now or before you attend a college. But one of the things that we want you to do and will encourage you to do throughout this year and next year is utilize Naviance to do some career exploration. And I'm certainly available for appointments as well if you would like to sit down with me. We can do it through Zoom, or hopefully when we're back in the building, we can do it in person. The other one that I skipped over was wait until you get accepted to visit. That is usually something that students wouldn't do in the traditional sense, but given the circumstances where you all cannot go visit college campuses, that might be a reality for you. So we'll wait and see. I've been in contact with college reps throughout the last 2 weeks. They're fully aware of the situation that's going on, and they know how that's going to impact you. And they explained to me that they are going to be very flexible in the fall of 2020 when you're applying to colleges. So many times students will come in to the College and Career Center and ask me if a college is good or not. And one of the responses that I like to say is, I don't know, what does good mean to you? So you might like a really small school, whereas another student might like a Penn State of 45,000. So good is really a broad area. And I think in this process, you'll learn a lot about yourself and your family. What makes sense for us as a family, financially, academically, socially, emotionally, and so forth. So moving on about the college process, and you're going to notice throughout the presentation that there's going to be page numbers at the top of a lot of the slides, and that's referring to the post-secondary planning guide. The post-secondary planning guide can be found on our guidance webpage. You can either print it out or just download it to your desktop or your laptop and refer back to it. But page 11 has a lot of really good information about the application process. Couple things to keep in mind. Working together as a family is really important, and having those open discussions about what you're all comfortable with, because it is a compromise. Students must take ownership. This is really critical in the application process because many colleges and universities are looking to find out who is college ready and who isn't. Schools such as University of Delaware have college students fielding phone calls and emails and tracking how many times a parent contacts them versus a student. So it can adversely affect a student's application if the student themselves is not contacting the colleges directly. So just have them take ownership of that process. Discuss finances openly and start early and try to meet all your deadlines. And again, like I said, in these unusual circumstances, certainly the deadlines may change for you. Sorry, I had something pop up on my screen that I want to get rid of. Also, meetings with your school counselor. I know that a lot of school counselors are doing virtual or telephone conferences. I'm available through Zoom and would be happy to meet with you as well. But obviously, you're not going to be meeting with them in person anytime soon. But certainly, if we're back in the building, we will be doing face-to-face meetings with you as well. But don't hesitate to reach out. Finding a college. On page 12 of the post-secondary planning guide, there's a lot of really great information on there. But some things to consider as you sit down and try to plan out what colleges make sense for you. Obviously cost, you want a list of schools that vary in cost, and think about size. And sometimes students write off smaller colleges and then they realize that that in fact is what they need or want in a college. So don't be closed off to a smaller school, and also don't have all huge schools on your list. Have a variety in there. Location and distance from home is sometimes a really important factor. You might start the process thinking, I want to go to California or Hawaii or Alaska, and then you figure that those locations are really, really difficult to get to, and you may amend your list based on that. So you want to have a list that's diverse in location as well. Starting to think about majors, you don't have to know exactly what you want to do now, but just narrowing it down to 2 or 3 areas that you feel really strongly about would be a great way to narrow down your list of schools. Credentials is really important as you're utilizing Naviance more and more, and we sure hope that you are. You will get a better sense of what schools are a good fit for you academically. If you're utilizing that graphing feature, it really does help you figure out, is that a reach school, a safety, or a probable school for me? Oddly enough, I added residence halls because for some students, this is really critical. They have to have their creature comforts and have specific wants and desires in a residence hall. So if you're not comfortable where you're living, sometimes that can really adversely affect your overall experience. So you want to take a look at those as well. Special programs and pockets of excellence. Special programs would be athletics, visual performing arts, things like that. If you're interested in those things and it's something that you're really passionate about, we would certainly want you to narrow down your list of schools that have good programs in those areas of interest. And then pockets of excellence is basically, you have schools that maybe aren't big in name recognition, but they're big in certain majors. For example, Drexel University has a world-renowned co-op and internship program. Rowan has one of the top engineering schools in the country. Stockton has one of the best occupational therapy and physical therapy graduate programs. They have a direct entry medical school. They have a top criminology major and hospitality and tourism. And a lot of students don't consider those schools because they want a quote bigger name or a more prestigious name, but sometimes the pocket of excellence is a school that may be the best fit for you. So obviously I'm changing my tune on this slide, hit the road and visit, but on page 14 and 15 in the post-secondary planning guide and page 28, there's a lot of really good information when you do in fact get to physically visit those colleges and universities. Right now, we're encouraging you to do virtual college tours, and there's 2 resources on our website that you can look at. UVisit, and I believe there's another one. They're free of charge, and you can go in and virtually explore a lot of different campuses. And finally, on page 40, this will help you narrow your list of colleges. So try to keep a range of 6 to 8. Certainly some students are under that, some students are above that. But you want to try to narrow it down. So coming into back to school in the fall of 2020, our hope is that on your colleges I'm thinking about list in Naviance, you have your list of 6 to 8 schools, and they should vary in safety school, probable school, and reach school. So maybe 1 or 2 safety schools. The majority of your schools are going to be probable, where you're in a comfortable range on that graph in Naviance, and then 1 or 2 reach schools. Admissions terms, you can find them on page 8 and 9 in the post-secondary planning guide. I just want to focus on the top 3 for now because they impact you more recently. So early decision is a binding contract, meaning if you want to go to that college or university, you're going to sign a binding contract. And that means that you have to attend that college or university that following fall. Now, there are risks involved in that because you don't have your financial aid package yet. You could certainly reach out to the college admissions office and see if they'd be willing to give you an estimate, but having that discussion as a family is really critical. Now, why would anybody do early decision? Quite frankly, I utilize Lehigh for this example. Their overall acceptance rate for a traditional applicant is 18%. But they accept over 40% of their early decision applicants. So if you know a school is the best fit for you and you as a family are comfortable and they offer early decision, it's the best opportunity for admission. Early action, on the other hand, is the best thing going. You apply early, you find out early, you still have till May 1st to decide if you want to go there. So that's non-binding. If you see a term priority, that is when the college or university really wants your application. And schools like, for example, Old Dominion, their deadline for priority is December 1st. Now, if you don't apply by December 1st priority deadline, you are not eligible or considered for scholarships. So you always want to adhere to that. How are applicants evaluated in the admissions office? So hard factors for evaluation, the rigor of your schedule. So how hard were the courses that you took? Did you challenge yourself every year? And how did you do in those courses? Now, certainly they're not expecting students to have all honors and AP classes or all advanced classes. If you have a mix of classes and you challenge yourself a little bit more every year and do well in those classes, that's what they're looking for. And then certainly SAT, ACT, and subject tests. You can find out more information about those on page 19 of your post-secondary planning guide. Soft factors, letters of recommendation can be very important. Your resume, what did you do while you were in high school, outside of school, and inside of school? Your college essay can be a huge asset in the application process. It's not going to get you in, but it can certainly help. And then demonstrated interest, this is just the student reaching out, visiting the campus, making sure all of their application materials are in, if they offer interviews, scheduling interviews, and things of that nature. The application itself, on page 41 of the post-secondary planning guide, you'll find information about this. You can create a Common App account now. The essays are going to be the same, and the application is going to be the same for the fall. So if you want to get that started, feel free to do so. Some students are concerned if a college or university offers a Common App and a university or college specific application. They're fearful that if they do the Common App, it shows that they're not as interested as they would be if they did the specific app. It really does not matter, I assure you. And honestly, the Common App account was created to save you stress. So take advantage of that if the college allows you to submit Common App. The family application checklist, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. You'll receive this document that will need to be signed off on before any of the school counselors send your college applications out for you in the fall. But I'll be reviewing this at senior night next fall as well. I just wanted to show it to you so you know what it is. And it basically just tells you what's your responsibility in the application process and what is our responsibility in the application process. Moving on to letters of recommendation. Page 44 of the post-secondary planning guide has detailed information about that. The students should request 2 letters of recommendation from academic core teachers from junior year. We're hopeful that students have 2 junior year teachers that they feel confident will write them a good letter of recommendation. Many students have maybe outside employers, clergy, maybe you interned or you're heavily involved in a club or an athletic event. You can get a supplemental letter of recommendation from those individuals, and they would simply email it to your school counselor and add it to your application file. Is it necessary? No, certainly not. So you really want to give some thought in terms of who you're going to ask. It should be a teacher who knows you, that you have a relationship with. And if a teacher for some reason says they can't write you a letter, to try not to take offense to that. It could be because they already have a number of requests, or it could be because they don't feel confident that they can write you the strongest letter that you deserve. So we're asking that you update your resume and that you fill out the request for a letter of recommendation, which is also on our website. Take some time and effort when you fill that out. Make sure that you're giving teachers specific examples from class to the best of your knowledge. Teachers a lot of times will utilize that information in your letter of recommendation and make it very personal, which is a good thing for you when you're going through the admissions process. So make sure you're filling out those 2 forms, ask 2 core academic teachers for a letter of recommendation. And we're thinking after spring break would be a great time to reach out to the teachers. If we're in school, 100% make sure that you see them in person. If we're not, an email is certainly acceptable. And once they agree to write you a letter, you would forward them the form and your updated resume. College admissions testing, of course, this is a very challenging topic for me to cover in these challenging times. But the good rule of thumb is 2 to 3 SATs and 1 to 2 ACTs is usually the norm. We'll see how this thing unfolds. College Board is constantly updating their website and telling us what college admissions testing is going to look like over the next couple of months. If you registered for March or May SATs, they are issuing you a full refund. And if you want to register for future tests, create an entirely new registration. Otherwise, they'll try to charge you $49 for the change of date fee. Um, so we'll talk a little bit about the SATs and the ACTs and the differences. But I did want to stress to you that there's no harm in doing both. In fact, I would highly recommend it. Now colleges are trending to super score the SAT and the ACT subscores. For example, say you did great in the ACT and math, but the critical reading was higher on the SAT. They're going to take that into account. And keep in mind, colleges and universities are in the business of wanting to accept you. So they're going to take all of the information you give them and draw your best scores from there. I did want to touch on subject tests. Students that are looking at really competitive or the most competitive colleges in the country, they'll need to do 2 to 3 subject tests. You can take up to 3 on one test date. They're an hour each in length. However, in my opinion, I think students should minimize the number of subject tests they take on one date to 2. And usually that's fine. Many students line up their subject test date with their AP exams because it's similar information. For example, if you're in AP Calculus and AP Chemistry, you might take the Math 2 and the Chemistry subject test. Obviously, the next available date for that would be June at this point. There's a couple differences between the SAT and the ACT. Many students and families do not know this, but the ACT is the most widely accepted college admissions test in the country. It's just the SAT, we live in the College Board belt, so it's a little bit more emphasized, actually a lot more emphasized, but again, there's no penalty in just focusing on the ACT if that's a better test for you. ACT is a little bit shorter, but down at the bottom, you'll see the big difference, and that's what I wanted to focus on is, well, one, the ACT has a scientific reasoning section, and it also has a lot more questions in a shorter period of time. So you're getting 215 questions with 49 seconds to answer each question, whereas the SAT, you have 154 questions with a minute and 10 seconds to answer each question. So the ACT is definitely a power test. It's designed for you to run out of time, but for some students, it is very much a better assessment. So please do some research when you're thinking about that and planning that. If you are the type of student who does well in the classroom, but just does not do well on standardized tests, you are not alone. At this point, I believe the last time I checked on fairtest.org, there's almost 1,000 colleges and universities that don't require SAT or ACT scores. What they're going to focus on is your transcript. They're really going to focus on letters of recommendation, your resume, your college essays. Many schools are trending to offer students scholarships and honors college placement without test scores, just based on that transcript, which is your record of grades and the strength of schedule. So take a look at that. On Fair Test, you're going to notice some schools have little symbols next to them. For example, Rowan is test optional, but if you're applying to their engineering program, it isn't. They do require test scores for that specialized program. If you are a student who requires testing accommodations, be sure to reach out to your school counselors now and let them know that you would like to apply for accommodations. Your case manager can assist you with that as well. The SAT and the ACT accommodation process is different, so it's 2 separate processes to get the testing accommodations. If you are a recruited athlete or potentially recruited athlete, you can go on now or while you're not in school and register with the NCAA. That's really important. I'm going to spend some time talking about Naviance. Naviance is the one-stop shopping resource for college and career planning. I can't stress enough how important it is for you all to become familiar with this program and play with this program and do college searches and career searches on this. The school counselors will be assigning you tasks on your Naviance homepage. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to that, because they're really going to be coaching you through this process and making sure that you're completing all of the aspects you need to in a timely fashion. So Naviance is something you really should be logging on to weekly. Please do yourself a favor and get rid of the OCSD email sign-on and email your school counselor your email address that you will be utilizing for college applications. This way, you have all your college information and outreach sent to one central email account. We utilize the email feature in Naviance quite frequently, and we want to make sure that you have access to all the information and the deadlines. If you're having difficulty logging on, please email your school counselor or myself, and we can get you up and running on that Naviance program. This year, a lot of seniors were utilizing a program called Niche or Niche, depending on how you want to pronounce it. It is an awesome resource for college searching. The only negative about that program is that it doesn't really give you accurate statistics. And what I mean by that is, when you're on Naviance and looking at the graph of a particular college and whether or not you would be admissible, that is really hard and fast, true data. It's going to give you a realistic perspective of whether or not that school is a good fit for you. Whereas Niche or Niche, however you want to pronounce it, is not as accurate in the details. Our information is uploaded strictly from the counselors, and it's based on our GPA scale. So just keep that in mind as you're building your list of colleges. Paying for college, obviously this is really critical. On page 27 of the post-secondary planning guide, you'll find a lot of really good information. Some things that I just wanted to highlight, and again, I'll go over this in your senior meeting next September, but just something to keep in mind. You can file the free application for federal student aid on October 1st of next school year. The big thing that I wanted to emphasize is the EFC and the net price calculator. Those things are things that you could do now. The EFC is what the federal government believes that a family should be able to pay per year for college. You get that number after you file the FAFSA. You can do that ahead of time by visiting FAFSAforecaster.org, and the website's down on the bottom of this screen. Take a look and explore that and figure out what you're going to be looking at as far as an EFC. The net price calculator is located on every college and university website, and you'll put some personal information and financial information into that net price calculator, and it will give you an idea or an estimate of how much you would be paying per year for that specific institution. So that's a really great way to start figuring out your financial diversity on your college list. CSS profile is something that you may see next fall if you're applying to usually private, really competitive institutions require the CSS profile. So you might see that or might come across that. That's a really critical piece of information. I know with Drexel University, if you don't get that in by their deadline, you will not be considered for grants and scholarships. And Drexel's probably around $71,000, $72,000 per year. So it will be very important that you adhere to those deadlines with the CSS profile. Many of our students are choosing to go into the military reserves, ROTC programs to pay for college. I can help you navigate through that if that is a consideration for sure. So I know I threw a lot of information at you, and hopefully this gives you some insight into what you should be doing now and how to prepare for the college application process. But as always, if you need us, we are here for you to answer any questions and help you navigate this process.